My siblings framed me for stealing $50K from our parents. My brother dragged me by my hair and threw outside. My mom sided with him and slapped me across the face. I was 6 months pregnant with twins. I didn't cry. I did this. 3 weeks later, their worlds had fallen apart. I remember that night like it just happened. 6 months pregnant. Twins. My kids kicking like they were trying to say, "Hang in there, Mom. We got you." Even that couldn't drown out the cold fist of dread sitting in my chest. At 9 in the morning, a text from my mom. "Come over at 6. We need to talk." No, "How are you feeling?" No, "How are the babies?" Just an order. That was my family's love language. Commands. But this time, something about it was a seer, like a draft blowing through an empty house. I spent the day trying to keep busy, folding tiny Target pajamas, running laundry, making Ethan's favorite chicken soup. But my brain kept going back to that text, like it was tattooed on the inside of my eyelids. Maybe they'd finally softened? Maybe the news about the twins had thawed them out? "Jules, what's going on?" Ethan asked when he got home early. Thermos in hand, flannel shirt, smelling like cold air and metal from the factory. I showed him the text. His face tightened. "You want me to go with you?" "No. If you show up, they'll just blow up." And I wasn't wrong. My family saw him as the factory floor loser who dragged me down from a good life. To them, he was nothing. To me, he was everything. By 6, he was dropping me off at the gates of the old family house, a massive brick fortress in Lake Oswego, with lawns trimmed so perfectly it's like they measured each blade of grass. The guard at the gate gave me a nod. I used to think this place was a castle. Now it felt like a fortress keeping me out. "Call me if you need me. I'll be close," Ethan said, squeezing my hand. I walked the stone path to the front door, wet leaves underfoot, fireplace smoke in the air. Mom answered herself. No housekeeper today? Perfect suit, pearls, hair done, perfume that cost more than my rent. "Come in," she said, not even glancing at my stomach. In the living room, Dad by the fireplace, Trevor, my older brother, on one side, Madison, my younger sister, on the other. On the table, a neat stack of papers and a closed leather folder. "Sit," Dad said, pointing to the most uncomfortable chair in the room. Trevor slid a paper toward me. "You stole from our parents, Julia. 50 grand. Here's the proof." It was a Bank of America statement. Transfer $50,000 from Edward Parker retirement account to Julia Brown checking account. My account number circled in red. Date, 2 weeks ago. Standard online printout. Only problem? I'd never logged into their account in my life. "That's not me. I don't have access to your accounts," I said. Madison scoffed. "Oh, please. You've been stealing ever since you hooked up with that factory guy." "Stop it," I said, standing now. My voice shook, but I held my ground. "I've never taken a penny from you." "You disgrace this family," Dad snapped. "And now you're a thief too." I looked at Mom, searching for even a flicker of doubt. Nothing. Just ice. "You've changed, Jules. You're not the daughter we raised." And then she got up and slapped me. Hard. I stumbled, hands flying to my stomach. "Ungrateful!" she yelled. "You've shamed us enough!" I tried to back away, but Trevor grabbed my hair and dragged me toward the door. "I'm pregnant! You'll hurt the babies!" I screamed. "Your fault," he said, hauling me across the carpet. Madison stood there, arms crossed, smirking like it was a show. The cold October air hit my face as he shoved me outside. "Don't come back," Dad said, slamming the door. I stood on the porch, holding my stomach, legs shaking, phone in hand. "Ethan." My voice cracked when he answered. Please come get me." Minutes later, he was there. Saw me on the steps, ran over, dropped to his knees. "You okay? The babies?" "Take me to the hospital," I whispered. We drove to OHSU Maternity Center. City lights blurred past while I tried to process how, in one evening, I'd lost everything. The doctors checked it all. Heartbeats, blood pressure, the works. "They're fine," Dr. Summers said. "But you need complete rest for the rest of your pregnancy. No stress." That night, I knew. They'd crossed a line. They wanted to destroy me. "Jules," Ethan said, "tomorrow we find a lawyer. We fight." And I knew this was going to be a war. I was curled up on the couch, knees to my chest, staring at an old family photo on the wall. All 5 of us. I'm maybe 10, wearing some frilly nightmare of a dress. Mom with perfect hair, Dad in a suit, Trevor already wearing that "I'm better than everyone here" smirk, Madison, about 5, striking a pose like she was auditioning for the cover of Vogue. Looking at it, I realized none of what happened today came out of nowhere. It was slow, a crack in the wall you pretend not to see until one day the whole thing caves in. We were always the perfect family, at least on paper. Dad the businessman, Mom the socialite, 3 close kids. The reality? Everything was for the facade. Problems? We don't talk about them. They ruin the picture. Feelings? Useless unless they can be monetized. Dad was a man of action. In his world, people fell into 2 categories, useful and in the way. His opinion was fact. Everyone else's was background noise. Talking to me usually meant explaining what I'd done wrong. Mom was different, less loud, more cold. Her love was graded on performance. An A was as expected. Anything less was a disgrace. Smiling in public was mandatory. At home, she could walk right past you like you weren't there. Trevor, the golden child. From birth, the heir. My parents loved telling people how smart he was, how business-minded, just like his father. It meant he could get away with anything. He was a pro at the blame game. If something broke, it was my fault for messing with things. And of course my parents believed him. Why wouldn't they? He said so. When Trevor was 17, he forgot to pay his basketball team fee. When the coach called him out, Trevor said he'd given the money to me to drop off at school and I'd forgotten. I'd never even seen that cash. But at home, Mom chewed me out for being irresponsible, and Trevor just stood there, silent, letting it stick. Then there was Madison, the youngest, Mom's favorite. Born with a talent for crying at the exact right moment and making a face that flipped adults' guilt switches. Her hobby was inventing stories where she was the victim and I was the villain. Once she spilled cherry juice all over her expensive dress, then told Mom I'd done it on purpose. Mom didn't ask questions, just bought her a new one the next day and told me the cost would be coming out of my allowance. I went an entire month without a single dollar to my name. Apparently that's how you learn to value family. Trevor and Madison were masters at teaming up when it suited them. They'd spend hours behind closed doors dissecting my failures, then drop little poison seeds into conversation, wrapped up as concern. "She's too naive," Trevor would say. "Anyone could take advantage of her. Especially her husband," Madison would add, back when Ethan was still just my boyfriend. When Ethan came into the picture, it was like Christmas morning for them. A guy from a factory? To them, that was somehow worse than unemployed. "You could have picked someone better," Mom told me a week before our wedding. "Someone on your level," Dad added. And we both knew "on my level" meant with the right bank balance and last name. After the wedding, we moved into Cold War mode. Calls got rare. Visits turned into polite aggressive theater. Madison made cracks about how some people can't afford nice things anymore. Trevor dropped hints about how living paycheck to paycheck was dangerous for your future. Sometimes they didn't even bother with hints. One day, Trevor looked me right in the eye and said, "If you disappeared, everything would be easier." I thought he was just in a mood. Now I know. That was the warning shot. Madison loved to say, "Inheritances should go to the ones who deserve them," with the kind of tone that made it clear my name wasn't on that list. Back then, I treated it like family static, annoying, exhausting, but survivable. Today proved it wasn't random. It was prep work, years of small hits building up to one big one. Ethan came back in with tea, set it on the table, and sat next to me. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That this wasn't an accident," I said. "This has been building." I didn't know exactly when they'd decided to move from quiet sabotage to full attack. But now I knew. It wasn't heat of the moment. It was a decision. And they'd made it a long time ago. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did Ethan. He kept pacing around the house, offering me chamomile tea, pretending not to check on me every 30 seconds. I kept replaying it. Every word, every face. The slap. Trevor dragging me by the hair while Madison stood there, arms crossed, enjoying the show. And that bank statement, screaming that I'd stolen 50 grand from my parents. How the hell was that even possible? I don't know their online banking passwords. "Jules," Ethan said, sitting down next to me with a mug. "I called Catherine Rivera. She's a shark. One of the best in family and cyber cases. She can see us at 10. I gave a short laugh. "Ethan, I don't even know where to start." "Well, first, you're alive. The babies are okay," he said, nodding toward my stomach. "And we've got the piece of paper they're using to blackmail you. That's already something." Catherine's office was in one of those glass towers downtown, overlooking the river. Polished carpet, leather chairs, soft music in the lobby. She was mid-40s, sharp eyes, the kind of voice you use when you're used to winning. "Julia?" she said, shaking my hand. "Have a seat." We settled onto a couch. "Tell me what happened," she said, hitting record on a little voice recorder. I started with my mom's text and ended with me standing on their porch. Laid the Bank of America printout and my OHSU maternity records on the table. She studied them for a moment. "All right. First, assaulting a pregnant woman is a separate criminal offense. Second, if you didn't make this transfer and it's in your name, we're talking fraud and identity theft." "And now what?" Ethan asked. "We file a police report. They'll forward it to financial crimes. The bank will be subpoenaed for login logs and transaction verification. If it came from a different device or IP address, that's in your favor. But it's going to take time." "How long?" I asked, hoping she'd say a day or two. "A couple weeks minimum," she said calmly. "Sometimes a month." She slid me a list. "I'll need your last 3 months of bank statements, all pregnancy-related medical records, and any witness statements you can get. And keep your cool, how you present yourself matters in court." At the station, Detective Harris listened to my statement, photographed the bruise on my face and the scratches on my wrists, and took copies of the bank printout and medical reports. "We're opening 2 cases, assault and possible financial crime," he said. "We'll request the bank data. When it comes in, we'll contact you." I nodded. "And if they find out I went to the police?" "That's your right," he said. "They might be angry, but right now, officially, they haven't been charged." Back home, I sat at the kitchen table, turning my mug in my hands. "So now we wait," I said. "Yeah," Ethan replied, pouring himself coffee. "But now it's not just talk anymore." For the first time in days, I felt like I had some kind of shield. Not a quick fix, not some miracle defense, just a process. Rules. something they couldn't control. Didn't mean I'd be sleeping easy anytime soon, but at least now we were playing on their field. 3 weeks of waiting. That's a long time when you're 7 months pregnant and your main hobby is staring at your stomach like it's a crystal ball. Kick means they're fine. No kick means time to panic. I tried to keep busy, knitting blankets, sorting baby clothes by size. Sometimes I'd catch myself lining everything up by color like a storefront display. Guess it was easier than thinking about how my family was out there, living their lives, completely sure I was a thief. On day 21, after we filed the police report, Catherine called. "Julia, we've got news. Come to my office." My stomach dropped. That's never something you want to hear. We went that same day. She had a thick folder in front of her. "Report from financial crimes," she said. And we're holding a pretty strong hand. The first pages, login logs from my parents' online banking. The transfer to your account came from your parents' home IP address. Device? A laptop registered to your mother. I pressed my lips together. "And they'll still say it was me?" "Oh, they'll say it," Catherine said. "But here's the kicker. Before the transfer, your account was added as a trusted recipient. That happened 2 weeks earlier. To do that, they needed a code sent to your dad's phone." "How would they pull that off?" Ethan asked. "Two possibilities. Either one of your parents entered the code without realizing what it was for, or Trevor got his hands on it directly." I snorted. Trevor helping my parents with their banking? Yeah, I could picture that. "Then," Catherine went on, 3 minutes after the money hit your account, it was sent to an account in California. Belongs to someone tied to your brother through a shared business." Ethan let out a low whistle. "So basically, he sent it somewhere he could grab it." "Exactly," she said. "Which means we have grounds for a search." 2 days later, I was parked a few houses down from my parents' place. Not because I wanted to be there. Catherine thought it might be good for me to see justice in action. The house looked the same as ever. Perfect lawns, flag by the gate, spotless windows. Except today, there were police cruisers out front, lights flashing. Neighbors clustered on the sidewalk, some with coffee mugs, others filming on their phones. When the front door finally opened, I felt, not joy exactly, but something close. They hadn't seen this coming. The cops weren't exactly waved in, more like yelled at first. My mother on the porch, shouting about her rights, and this is a mistake. My dad demanding a lawyer. Madison looking like it was finally dawning on her that the world didn't revolve around her. I didn't stick around to watch the whole search. Probably took hours. I went home. A week later, Catherine called again. "We found something interesting." She laid out printouts, messages between Trevor and Madison, synced from their laptops. "All set. Mom and Dad will buy it," Trevor had written. "As long as she signs off on giving up the inheritance," Madison replied, followed by a few charming jokes about how everyone will be happy to be rid of her and her factory husband. I just stared at it, feeling nothing but tired. So this was the price of family loyalty. "Enough to arrest them?" Ethan asked. "Oh, more than enough," Catherine said. "Tomorrow morning." The arrests were quiet, but made for good TV. I didn't go. I stayed home, but I saw it on the news later. The reporter, all serious, talking about how, in Lake Oswego, Christine Parker and her 2 adult children have been arrested on charges of fraud, assault, and theft of intellectual property. She reminded viewers that the Parkers were one of the city's most prominent families. Dad, a successful business owner, and Christine, a fixture at charity galas and high society events. And now, these pillars of the community were being led away in cuffs under camera flashes and the murmurs of their neighbors. Oh, and about that intellectual property, turns out Madison had stolen my 3-year research project for a science grant, slapped her name on it, and entered it in a startup competition for $50,000. the cherry on top. After the arrests came the negotiations. Trevor and Madison were in custody. Mom was home on bail. First came a call from their lawyer. My clients admit things went too far and are prepared to apologize. If you send a letter to the DA and the judge asking for leniency, it could help with sentencing. Then came the messages, Mom calling, texts from both Trevor and Madison. All the same script. This has gone too far. We're still family. You don't want your own brother and sister in prison, do you? Along with the ask, sign a letter saying I hold no grudge, that this was a family matter, so the court would go easier. And sure, they sprinkled in sorry. But the kind of sorry that comes bone dry, without detail, like you know what we mean. I'll admit it. I had a flicker of hesitation. Years ago, maybe I'd have caved. But that was before Trevor accused me of theft, dragged me by the hair while I was pregnant, and tossed me outside while the rest of them just watched. You can forgive mistakes. You don't forgive premeditated cruelty, and forgiving them now? That would have meant playing their game again, telling the world, sure, they tried to wreck my life and endanger my kids, but it's fine. Let's just pretend it didn't happen. No, not happening. I'm not raising my kids to think you can dodge consequences if you're brazen enough. So I told their lawyer, no letters. Let accountability finally do its job. The trial started 2 months later. I was huge, days away from delivering. On the defense side, Trevor, Madison, Mom, flanked by lawyers from Seattle who probably charge more per hour than Ethan makes in a month. On ours, Catherine, the county prosecutor, and me. Judge Hunt was in her 60s, sharp-eyed, no nonsense. Catherine walked the court through everything. Bank logs, the trusted recipient ad, the transfer to my account, the quick move to the California account. Then the messages. Then an audio recording where Trevor bragged to a friend about screwing his sister out of the money. The friend had recorded it on his phone and handed it over when he realized it wasn't just family drama, it was criminal. I completely set her up, Trevor's voice said. Now Dad will definitely change the will. Madison laughed in the background. And she still thinks we're just mad about her husband. I didn't look at them. I just held Ethan's hand and felt him squeeze mine. After 3 days, the judge went to deliberate. 2 weeks later, verdict day. The courtroom was packed. Even some neighbors showed up. Having reviewed the evidence and testimony, Judge Hunt began. Trevor Parker is found guilty of large-scale fraud, identity theft, defamation, assault, and threatening the life of a pregnant woman. Sentence: 7 years in state prison. Trevor went pale and stared at me. His lawyer whispered in his ear, but his eyes stayed locked on me, full of hate. Madison Parker, the judge went on, is found guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, theft of intellectual property, and defamation. Sentence: 3 years in state prison. Madison started crying into her hands. Christine Parker, guilty of assaulting a pregnant woman. Sentence: a $5,000 fine and mandatory anger management classes. Then the judge looked at me. Mrs. Brown, the court finds you fully innocent and awards $100,000 in damages, to be paid jointly by Trevor and Madison Parker. If they lack the funds, collection will come from future income and assets. In addition, Trevor Parker is ordered to repay the stolen funds with interest at the Oregon legal rate of 9% annually until paid in full. As the deputies led Trevor and Madison out, Mom turned to me. Her eyes weren't angry, just confused, almost afraid. Jules, she started. I turned away. There was nothing left to say. Let's go home, Ethan said. We've got better things to do. And just like that, I knew. For me, they were already in the past. 3 weeks after the trial. A cold, bright December morning. The air smelled like fresh snow. I woke up to a sharp pain and knew. Game time. Ethan! I grabbed the edge of the bed. It's happening! He shot up, instantly awake, already helping me get dressed. "You're gonna be fine. Breathe, Jules. Just breathe." 15 minutes later, we were on our way to OHSU Maternity Center. Streets were quiet, cars sliding a little on the morning ice, Christmas lights twinkling in the distance. "Don't you dare have these kids in the car," he tried to joke. I just rolled my eyes and kept counting contractions. At the hospital, a nurse in a sweater covered in reindeer met us. "All right, Mom, Dad, get ready," she said with a grin. Twins aren't for the faint of heart. It was long, exhausting. Ethan stayed by my side the whole time, holding my hand, whispering encouragement, looking like he might pass out himself. The midwife, Nancy Peterson, teased that she might have to revive both of us if he didn't sit down and take a deep breath. Then, the first cry. A boy. Strong, loud, like he wanted the whole city to know he'd arrived. A few minutes later, a girl, warm, quiet, wide-eyed, like she was already figuring out the place. "Congratulations," Nancy said, wrapping them up in soft blankets. "Michael and Anna." I held them, tears running down my face. Ethan sat beside me, staring like he couldn't believe they were real. "They're ours, Jules. They're really ours." 2 days later, we went home. The neighbors were waiting with balloons and a big banner. "Welcome home, brown twins." Mrs. Henderson brought cookies, Mr. Lee knitted booties. That night the babies were sleeping, and Ethan and I were in the kitchen with mugs of tea. "You know," I said, "a year ago I thought it was all over." "And turns out," he said, "it was just getting started." Now we had a family, a real one, and the old betrayals, they didn't matter anymore. So that's how my story ends. I lost one family, but found another, the real thing. And now every single day reminds me that love and loyalty beat blood and a shared last name. If this story hit home for you, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments, do you believe that real family is the one who stands by you, even when the whole world turns against you? Thanks for sticking with me to the end. That means more than you know.